Welcome to the Better Man Show, where I document my journey on becoming a better person, and you can join along, right? I am BK, and if we are friends, that shouldn't surprise you. But if you're not friends, wherever I am popping up on your radar, just add me as a friend. I would love to. Don't be a stranger. I would love to have a new friend, right? So, this is fast becoming one of my favorite times of the day. I actually look forward to 10 p.m. I was having a short discussion with a friend the other day, and I was telling him, hey, I changed the show name. It is no longer called 10 p.m. with BK. It is called The Better Man Show. And he said, yeah, I love it. I love the title. And good move, because I was kind of wondering what would happen to your show if you decided not to do it at 10 p.m. Valid point, right? Valid point. Because there might be times when I may not be able to do it at 10 p.m. And this definitely makes more sense. And also, as I was telling some friends who came over the other day, they came over to my studio, my home studio, where they kind of wanted to know more about microphones and live stream setups and so on. I was telling them that I might take it outdoors from time to time, right? So if I do take it outdoors, it might not be 10 p.m., right? From the looks of things out now, 10 p.m. is very dark. I got to bring lighting along, right? It's going to be challenging. So yeah, if you have joined me from the start of this journey, it has been interesting because we have started with no titles to a title to some changes in the title. We started with one live stream platform to another and so on. So it has been a journey, right? A journey on becoming a better person, which includes life, love, and business and technology, right? So this channel doesn't necessarily talk about technical stuff. It doesn't also just talk about personal development stuff. It is just documenting my journey on becoming a better person in all the fields that I would like to be better in, right? And hopefully share some things that might benefit all of you as well, right? And I just want to thank all the friends who has helped to improve the show along the way. Comments, feedback, private messages, of course, coffee sessions, and they share and all that, right? So do drop a comment and let me know where you are catching us from, because I am testing the live stream to several channels. So just drop a comment wherever you are so that I kind of can also do a generic some roundup of, like, whether it's working on which channels, comments are coming through or not, so that I hope to be able to do kind of a quick roundup of different platforms for live streaming, especially during this interesting time where a lot of businesses and even individuals have to very quickly pivot from an offline to an online setup, right? From an offline to an online setup. In fact, I was telling some people the other day that this year is a very interesting inflection point in the history of our planet, as well as probably our businesses and our personal lives. Okay. So today, day 54 of a 100-day challenge. If exactly 54 days ago, I started the live stream 100-day live stream challenge, right? Some friends obviously told me that you are crazy to do that. But I was inspired by something called 75 Hard, a challenge by Andy Frisella. Do check him out. I always like to give credit where credit is due. So he was the one who kind of inspired me to think about something like this. It is a personal discipline challenge, but has evolved into other forms, right? And one of the other forms that has positively impacted me is that I hope by the end of the 100 days, I can become a better speaker, communicator, live streamer as well, right? So the past few days, we've been talking about 4 steps to good communication. Today, we are step number 3. If you have missed day 1 was first step of being a good communicator is to have something good to say, right? The step 1 is to have something good to say. So basically, before you even become a good communicator, you must have things that you want to say, right? Something good to say. So that is step number one. Step number two was yesterday. We talked a little bit about once you have something good to say, then the next natural step would be to learn to say it well, right? So we talked a little bit about that yesterday. So today we talk about the third thing or the third step about good communication, and it's going to be a short one today. It is about reading your audience. Now, it is even more interesting, right? Because of this current setup where we are talking about live streams and Zooms and online meetings and so on. Now, I have mentioned before, I do have to conduct presentations fairly often in front of crowds. Personally, I would prefer anytime an actual live audience, okay, in a hotel conference room or in a conference room or meeting place or any kind, because live is very different. Live, you interact with people so much faster. You literally am right in the face, right? And when you are in front of a live audience, these few steps that we talk about would probably be very relevant. But it is also interesting to think about then how can we, because this is an important part of communication, to be able to read the audience. So in a live audience, obviously when you deliver your presentation, you are able to very, very quickly observe your audience, right? And read your audience. But when it comes to, we kind of need to then now think about all those things that we know for a live audience. How then can we translate that into or transition that for the platforms that we are doing now, like live streams, like Zoom meetings, right? Zoom meetings might be slightly better because Zoom meetings, you can actually have, you can actually look at the audience if they leave their cameras on. There is no way you can force anyone to leave it on. They can turn it off on their own, right? But if you encourage it from at the start to tell people, hey, please leave your cameras on so we can see what you're doing, engage with you and so on, that might be a good idea. And also a good idea to have a 2-monitor setup for a Zoom conference, because then you have one monitor for your content, where perhaps this is where you are presenting your content from, and then another monitor for the audience, where the cameras and the videos are of the audience, right? So this way it doesn't interfere one with the other, right? So these are some ideas. Then for live streams, might be a little bit of a challenge. So I think for now, probably for live streams, the best and only way to read your audience is actually through feedback or comments, right? Most of the live stream channels allow you to have comments. You are able to type comments into the chat boxes, right? So that's probably one of the only ways you can help to read the audience. So what is it about reading the audience? The first key idea about reading the audience is listening to the audience. In this case, it is more like if we want to be a good speaker, we need to be able to listen to the audience. Now, it is more practical or more applicable when you are in a slightly more intimate setting, especially when it's perhaps one-to-one or one-to-a-few, right? Because the same saying has been, we are given with 2 ears, so that we are visually reminded we are supposed to listen twice as hard as we speak. And in fact, many times it's true, right? If we are coaching someone, or if we are in a coaching or a training setting for of one-to-one or one-to-a-few, and then being able to listen to your people, right? And then giving them the correct response or training that they need is actually very true, right? A lot of times, I think I also make this mistake as well. Sometimes when we are listening to someone, we are actually not listening. We are waiting for them to finish, for us then to give our point, right? But that's not the best. That's really not a good way to communicate. The good way to communicate is really listening to someone. In fact, I've mentioned many times I love words, right? And I love Chinese words as well. And if you look at Chinese words, especially if you look at the old way of writing versus the newer way of writing. The old way of writing sometimes is more revealing about how we actually feel about something. For example, the old way of writing the word listen in the Chinese language talks about using your ears, but not just your ears. It also talks about using your heart and your eyes. So in the word to represent listen, you actually have the ears involved, the eyes involved, and also the heart involved, right? Which is actually in line with what we're going to talk about today. So in Chinese, the word for listen has all these components. So meaning it is telling us that when you are listening to someone, use your eyes, use your ears, and use your heart. And one final important component is that in that word, to represent listen, it also uses the word king. There is the word king that appears in the word, which kind of suggests that you treat the other party with royalty, right? So that you give them the proper positioning, the proper respect and authority, such that you listen with the idea that if you are in the presence of a king, for example, that's what you would do, right? Intently. So that is the first key about good communication. This is probably more applicable for one-to-one or one-to-few, right? Rather than an audience. Of course, in an audience, if it's a townhouse kind of setting, it might also be possible, because there are certain public presentations where you kind of have spots in the audience where people can go to the mic and then address the speaker, and that is one of the interesting ones. In fact, if you look at YouTube, there are some recorded meetings of such natures that involve Steve Jobs and some audience members. And if you listen to the way he banters with the audience, it's actually quite humorous. Also brings out certain key philosophies about how he interacts with business and his philosophies of life and so on. So do check it out, right? So that's the first key idea. The second key idea is like what we said just now. So using your eyes. So you kind of need to read what you see, right, from the audience. Now, so that is probably one of the downsides to live streams, because I cannot see the audience. I cannot really see the audience. The only thing I can get a response from is like the feedback, right? Like comments. So that is the downside to a live stream. For Zoom meetings, might be slightly better, like I said, because we do have you can see the videos. Then, of course, to read what you see, it also has certain components of body language, right? So there are certain I'm not going to go through the whole gamut of body language. There are good books about that, right? Like, for example, a book called How to Read a Person Like a Book. You could actually go and check that out. But there are certain obvious ones and simple ones, and we kind of talked about this before. Obvious ones like if someone is, the chin is tucked down, the hands are folded, right? These are signs that you have your job cut out for you, because this person is obviously not very open to whatever you are saying, right? If someone is leaning towards the door, packing his stuff, and in today's context, if he's playing with his phone, then all signs that he or she, your audience, is obviously not too intrigued by what you are saying, right? And of course, we have mentioned this, kids are another good subject audience test markets, right? Because they don't try to fake you out. They talk to them and they're staring out the window, right? They are not afraid to show you their total unconcern. I'm not interested in what this old man is saying. They are looking out the window and they're doing their other things, right? Because they have not yet learned the art of polite society. So we do kind of live in a polite society. Therefore, reading body language is also vital if you want to be a good communicator, because polite society, body language can be a bit deceiving. Somebody might look at you and smile, but don't misread courtesy for consent. I have personally seen this before happen many times in a public presentation for our company, right? There are people who are smiling at you, looking as though they are enjoying the presentations very much, but they also politely leave the presentation immediately after the presentation. But then there are some in the audience that have furrowed, their brows they're like this, and they are like folded their arms. They look like they are judging every single word you're saying. But after the presentation, they come up to you. They might have a question or two for you for what you have just said. But then they kind of either sign up or join or purchase the products that you are talking about, right? So in our polite society where people have, especially adults, have learned to be polite, don't misread courtesy for consent, right? Don't mistake kindness for acceptance. So that is another part of a good communication. So being able to read what you see in the audience. And last part, this is the tough one. Easier for ladies, I guess, because ladies are a bit natural in this. We need to read the emotional signals from the audience, right? So women have a natural edge. They have a more inclination to being able to read these things. They can feel things better. Men can be a bit more numb or clueless to some, to this. But we can learn it. Men can still learn it, right? To feel what the other person might be putting out. Because women are more natural at this, right? But men, don't worry, we still can learn it, right? So once you feel it, then you kind of have to learn to adjust, right? You can adjust it. You can adjust, for example, if you say something in a certain way and then you sense somewhat of a resistance, then you can change your language, changing from sharper to softer or softer to sharper, either way, right? From being a bit more forward or harsh or less harsh, right? So all these things can be adjusted. From the stage, it might be tough, but if you are a very seasoned speaker, you could do that as well, right? So this is the third important aspect of communication, the third step, which is reading the audience, right? So tomorrow we are going to finish off with the final step of 4 steps to good communication. And then we will probably jump onto some other topics, or we might elaborate a little bit more about it. So do let me know whether all those things have been helpful for you. And if you are a good communicator, you are a good presenter, please share your tips with the rest of us. Feel free to drop me a comment or drop me a private message. And I'm happy to collate the feedback that you have and then present it for everyone to learn from, right? It's always good that we learn from one another. So this is a good weekend for me because I'm also attending a course. So it's been an all-nighter. It's quite a challenge, but it's been fun. So I'm kind of looking forward to later as well. So I'll be listening and learning from very excellent world-class presenters as well, right? So thank you for joining me.